about your background?
My background.
Yes.
Well, I've been sort of in the role of supporting people for the past 10 years, really. I sort of left school with no qualifications. I had dyslexia, I had a list, so I didn't do very well at school. And I think a lot of my teachers, maybe even family and friends, thought that I weren't going to really do a lot with my life. I was sort of going to work and do the usual sort of thing. But after doing manual labour jobs for 5 or 6 years, I sort of realised that there's something more that I wanted to do, and I really wanted to get into the industry helping people. But without the qualifications, I thought I wouldn't be able to access that industry. So I decided to volunteer and give my time for free. And
Right.
by doing that, I sort of got a lot of skills, a lot of experience myself, and then use those skills and those experiences to sort of get into this industry of supporting people. My background came from helping people to learn how to drive forklift trucks, to doing employability training for long-term unemployed, and then getting into careers advice and life coaching and hypnotherapy from there. So I've
Right.
just always been interested in helping people, really.
Right. Yes. Well, I was going to ask you what you were interested in helping people rather than interested in going into the help industry, or helping industry, or self-help industry even. But so, what sort of voluntary jobs were they that you got in the old days and when you first started?
I've mainly got into like working with youth groups, working with scout groups. I used to take large groups of kids away on camps. We took a big group of 15 kids to France. But we used to do like a lot of confidence building sessions and motivational sessions and like teamwork activities. And I sort of really enjoyed that guy getting in with the young people and supporting them and watching them grow. We used to have I remember working this one child who was in a care home and he came to the scout group and he had like no confidence at all. He had to get his carers to walk into the scout group. He wouldn't speak to anyone, and it took us quite a while. But using these interactive activities with the other children, the other scouts, we really boosted his confidence. And there was one time when his carer came to me and said, "I can't believe the difference." He came to me the other day and said, "Can I have some money? I'm going to go to the shop on my own." And that was like a first for this young child. He'd never go out the house without a carer or two being there with him. And she said it was down to like the activities and the sort of weekends away that we did with the scout group. So I used to work with the scouts, used to work with youth groups, and then I got into working with disabled young adults and children as well, taking them on activity weekends.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Isn't it? Already, you've shown in your life before you got onto any learning about NLP or anything like that. You found out that people can change for the better. And sometimes you think, the problems are insurmountable, and somebody hasn't been out of the house for a couple of years, and whatever is going to make them change, whatever is going to improve, and yet there are, it's important to remember that people can change.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Um,
It's really interesting as well because when I was doing the scouts and the youth groups at the time, I didn't sort of realise about the NLP techniques and solution focused techniques. But I found myself using those techniques, and then when I got trained in NLP and solution focus and coaching, I sort of realised that I was naturally doing some of these techniques. So when one of the young people maybe did something wrong and they sort of got a bit angry with it, he was always asking like, "What have you learned from this?" or "What could you do better next time?" which is very solution focused type question. So I sort of found myself once I got trained, realising that I've been doing this for years without sort of knowing it really.
Yes, that's the case, isn't it? Well, it's good to know it practically before you actually learnt it theoretically, which is
Yeah.
probably most people do it the other way around, but probably better that you did it that way around. So
Yeah.
how did you move on from the voluntary work then?
Well, I was working in a warehouse at the time, and through some government funding, because I had no qualifications, I got to get me MVQs in warehousing. And as part of that package, I got to learn how to drive forklift trucks. And there was two of us doing a forklift truck course, and for some reason I was picking it up quite well. But the other person, this young lady that I worked with, just couldn't get her head round it, kept crashing it, kept knocking the crates over. And the trainer was trying to do everything he can to support this young person. I think it was both 19 at the time. But she didn't get her head round it and kept, and predictably was going to fail the test they thought. And there was one session where she got really angry about it, and I went over to her and just started chatting to her and said, "All you need to do is have a breathe, sort of picture yourself doing it, and then give it a go." And from there, from that like one comment, she started driving it a lot better and ended up passing the test. So it was just like a small moment in time that I didn't think about. Then about 6 or 8 months later, the forklift truck trainer came back to the warehouse to sign my MVQ off. And he said, "Oh, do you remember me? I was your forklift truck instructor." And I said, oh yeah, how could I forget you here? It was only 8 months ago. And he said, well, actually, I'm not the forklift truck instructor, I'm the managing director of the company. I came down that day because the forklift truck instructor was off ill, so I came down just to fill in for those 2 or 3 days. But I was really impressed the way you supported that young colleague of yours, and I want to offer you a job. And because I helped this person off my own back, he offered me a job and funded all my FLT training, so I got into being a forklift truck instructor and an MBQ assessor. Just a lucky break, really, but it's sort of maybe the skills I learned from the volunteering supported that lucky break.
Interesting, yes. And one might say it was karma.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Being involved, yeah. But we don't know. Yeah, well, that's an interesting story. So, what made you? Because the advice you gave to the young lady sounds remarkably like advice that you'd give now as a result of your NLP training. But again, that was before your NLP training. So, did that just come to you and just drop into your head like that?
Yeah, it did. I think again because I'd done all the volunteering with the youth groups and the scout groups, and we used to put them into teams, and had to go and build a tent in a quicker time and stuff like that. And I used to always say to my team, this is what athletes do: is they imagine themselves doing it really well, all working together and being successful and getting it done quick. So picture that in your mind, and run down. So they run down, and then they often win these little silly races, or just a bit of fun, really. And maybe just unconsciously it just got stuck into my mind, and I used it with that other young lady in the FLT. But yeah, I sort of used these techniques and without realising they was so powerful.
Okay, so then you became an MVQ, which is I should explain is a qualification trainer. Here in the UK, training people to do practical things for that they will find useful in the workplace. How did things move on from there?
Well, I worked for that company for about 2 years, all over the northwest of England, teaching people to drive forklift trucks, running little group sessions with them and one-to-one sessions, and then going into warehouses, assessing people. But the company was funded by the government, and they lost the funding after 2 years, so we all got made redundant. And part of me thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to go back to warehousing and manual work. And another part of me said, no, you got all these new skills, go and do something a little bit different. And I went for a job in a company where they did employability training sessions for large groups of unemployed people who've been unemployed for 5, 10, 20 years in some cases. And luckily, I got offered a job and got trained up, and they had to, from being a forklift truck instructor, I had to go deliver this employability training course 2 weeks later to this large group of unemployed people. So I turned up in the training room on the first day, saying to everyone, "Are you all glad to be here? You look at you all ready to learn something new?" And they all went, "No, we've been forced to come on this course. We don't want to be here. This isn't what we want to do on a Monday morning." So I sort of jumped into delivering presentations and group work to sometimes the hardest client group really. But I learned a lot again in a very short period of time.
Well, yes, I should imagine you did. Yeah, it must have been extremely difficult at times, but maybe you were finding that you had the skills in this particular area, and you were interested in capitalising on them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, I think there was a part of me that sort of realised how lucky I was. It was only 2 or 3 years ago where I was in a warehouse delivering packages to different companies and loading up pallets and stuff like that. Then to be classed as a professional, supporting other people, and I felt quite a lot of pride when I got someone who'd been 10 years unemployed and I supported them into employment. There was a lot of pride there, and I was just very keen to build on the skills he had. And I started reading coaching books and come across NLP techniques, and the company put me through quite a lot of training. And every time I learned some new skills and I used it with the groups of people I support, and I kept getting better and better results. And I think it's sort of just built in me really that the more I learn, the more I train myself, the better results I'll get from the clients.
Okay, so you mentioned NLP then. Well, maybe this is a good time, because this is a question I wanted to ask you. I think you know what's coming, Chris. I'm going to ask you for a definition of NLP, but I'll have to apologise first before I do that, because it's something that I would struggle to define. I've also heard it as a handbook for life or something like that. So, so you're not allowed to use that one. So what is NLP, Chris?
It does get described in so many ways, and I think I think the reason why some people find it hard to describe what NLP is, so it's got lots of different elements.
Yeah.
But really, Bandler, when he came up, Bandler and Grinder, when they came up with NLP, it's based on modelling successful people. So they found people who were successful at stuff, and then found out what they did internally, and then taught other people who weren't successful to use that same model, so they would then become successful. So as an example, what Bandler uses a lot when you sort of read his books and see him in London on his webinars and stuff like that is instead of speaking to people who are phobic of spiders, he find out who was a phobic of spider and who cured themselves and find out what they did. So he put an advert in a paper saying, "I'll pay someone $50 if you tell me how you got over your phobia of spiders." And then modelled hundreds of people who came over phobias or who run races or who were more confident, and then found out what they did internally, and then taught that to other people. And he found that when he taught what they did internally to other people, the other people got the same results.
Yes, that's a really good point about modelling successful people. 'Cause that is what you tend to forget with NLP, because maybe you get a little bit lost when you start reading about it, and it's about the different sensual perceptions and the is it touch, is it sight, is it kinesthetic,
Yeah.
and then you think, oh my God, what is this all about? And yet it seems to be really helping, but that is a really good point. So what you meant you're teaching these people, or should I say you're training these people, and you're involved in personal development already in the classroom or in the training course, and you're reading a lot of books on NLP, and you've obviously got a thirst for knowledge. It probably continues to this day.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Well, I was getting really good results from my clients, and because of that, the company then promoted me. I became managers of centres. I went through all my careers, advice qualifications, and then started managing the careers advice team throughout the Northwest. So I was doing one-to-one career sessions, some employability training, and then managing the careers team. But at the same time, I wanted to help people with the personal stuff as well as the employability stuff. So I set up like a life coaching, NLP life coaching business in Manchester, and started helping people with stuff like confidence issues, self-esteem, motivation, and that sort of stuff. And again, I sort of drawn into the NLP techniques, got qualified in NLP as well, and then used those techniques to support people with personal problems.
You were doing all this in your spare time with a full-time job?
Yes, I was, yeah. And, I was learning as I was doing it. I think my first client, we met in like a coffee house in Manchester, and I probably charged maybe £10 or something. My parking fees were probably £15, but I just wanted to get out there. I was scared, I was nervous, but I wanted to get out there and help people, really. And I thought, you just got to put yourself out there and do it sometimes.
Okay, so shall we ask you then? Would it be a good idea to say that I was a person that lacked confidence,
Okay.
and maybe I've got a job that is not very rewarding, and I'm just doing it because I have to do it. It pays me money, and I've got caught in a bit of a rut, and I was your client. What sort of techniques would you be thinking of with me?
When I'm with a client, I'd sort of break that down a little bit more, because you sort of talked about the confidence and then be stuck in a rut with your job. So I sort of find out which one was more important, or is one was feeding the other one, was the lack of confidence affecting the way you perform in your job. So a lot of people come with that issue, and sometimes if it can boost the confidence, they actually go into work feeling more confidence and get a lot more from the job and actually enjoy the job. But some people are stuck in a job that it doesn't match their values or their beliefs or their personality. We'll probably do a career session on that. But as an example for a technique, can you think of a time now, actually, maybe when you don't feel that confident or you feel nervous about something? I don't know, maybe a job interview, or if you got a phobia or something like that?
I'd have no problem thinking of a time when I lack confidence, because I don't think I'm a particularly confident person, so I can quite easily think of. Does it have to be very specific, or can it be general?
Anything really. You don't even have to tell us what it is, because all I want to do is think about that time. But a lot of people, again, when you talk about the confidence, like you just did then, will say, "Oh, I'm not a very confident person." But you are actually, because a confident, someone who is not confident would not do something like this interview now. So you might be confident in one area of your life and not in another area of your life. So when we talk to people and we sort of question them and we sort of maybe getting to look at things from a different perspective, you start breaking down people's beliefs as well. So if they've got a negative or limiting beliefs, that stops them moving forward, like confidence. By saying, well, actually, you're confident doing this, but you're saying you're not confident doing that, they realise that they've got confidence in different parts of their life. But a very simple technique is, can you imagine that that sort of thing when you're not very confident, whatever it is?
Yeah.
And when you think about that now, where's that picture in your mind?
Right, okay, let's give me a sec. Don't worry, Chris, we'll cut this bit. Hold on.
So do you know, because again, this is very interesting, because a lot of my clients, when they come to me, do this, and sometimes I'll let them, because your eyes are going up and you're sort of picturing things and you sort of flip from memory to like creative. But when you think about it, is it a picture that you see, or are you saying to yourself, I'm not very confident in?
Yeah, no, it's really a feeling I've got. That's why I'm finding it hard to picture.
Yeah.
Because
so with that feeling, whereabouts is that feeling?
Well, it's right inside, you see.
Right inside.
Yeah.
And what produces that feeling? What happens for you to get that feeling?
It can be a variety of things. It could be just something hasn't worked out particularly well, or you're just having a bad day and something like that. And so there's anything that can bring it on, really.
Okay, but when you're thinking about something that makes you nervous, either from the past or in the future, and then that gives you that same feeling, what happens in your mind? Do you say something to yourself, or do you remember a past thing, or do you future visualize something that's going to happen?
Oh, Chris, it's difficult to say. I mean, sometimes the symptoms can be extreme. A lot of adrenaline that can make me shake. I've actually been known to sort of physically shake in certain scenarios. But what happens before it? I think it's a well worked path within my mind, because I can tell that I've been here before and this is going to happen, and so it just happens. But it's really difficult to say what internally or externally, what route it takes in the initial stages.
And it's very interesting the way you use your hands. Sort of, then you sort of like you were saying, there's a path, and you put your hands in front of your face, and you sort of move, and you said, you're following this path. So this seems to me like, and again with a client, we'll probably explore this in more detail. But it seems like you've got some sort of image in your mind that you sort of play quite constantly. Would that be right? Maybe a movie or something like that.
Yeah, I'd have to think. I'd have to think about this again. I can't see anything in my mind about it. Although I did notice the hands go like this, and because I'm talking on Skype, I can see myself. But so yeah, I really did notice that as well. But I can't really. It might be because we're doing this interview, so I've got half my mind on that.
Yeah,
but, I can't really think of where it's coming from.
Okay, so but you get that feeling then, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could see that feeling, what would your feeling of lack of confidence look like?
Well, I'd have to be quite sort of dark, and so it was like a dark hole with a general downward trajectory opening up in front of me, which is a bit dramatic.
Okay, so when you sort of thought of that feeling, did you sort of imagine that dark hole in front of you, or was it a feeling of a dark hole in front of you?
Yeah, it's more feeling than any visual imagination.
Okay, and on a scale of 1 to 10, when you sort of feel that dark hole in front of you, with 1 representing that you're completely confident and 10 representing that you're very nervous or very underconfident, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put yourself?
Oh, well, I'd say 5 or 6,
About 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so just imagine that dark hole in front of you again, and imagine maybe you could fill that hole up with something very colourful, like roses or daffodils or anything you want, but anything very colourful. Just fill it up with something very colourful.
Yeah, that's nice.
And have you done that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about it now, filled with something very colourful, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, yeah, no, I feel better on a scale of 1 to 10. That's for sure, because the just the mental process of doing something about something makes me feel better. So yeah, I'd say I'm going on to a 6 or a 7.
Okay, so what we do with clients, we sort of explore that a little bit more. But the basic technique, or one of the fundamentals of NLP, is people will sometimes say things to themselves, they'll visualize things, they'll feel things, like you said before, your visual, your kinesthetic, your auditory. And if you can change the submodalities, those feelings, those sounds, those visions, you can change the way people feel about it. So a lot of my I get a lot of people who are phobic of spiders, and when they think about a spider, they'll imagine a picture of a spider right in front of their mind. And they don't see a picture of them looking at a spider. They imagine they're there in the room with a giant, massive spider. And this spider's so big that they can see all the hairs, all the eyelashes on the spider. It's a massive spider. What we do, we get them to pause that movie and push the picture away from their mind and put a frame around that picture. And every time you do something different to this image, it changes the way they feel. So if it's a coloured film, you turn it black and white. If it's got loud music, you can hear the spider walking along the floor. You put on some Benny Hill theme tune music and get a bit more exciting. You can turn real life images in your mind into cartoon images as well. It doesn't matter what you do, but if you change the way that person sees or hears something, you can change the way they feel.
Yeah.
Do you ever give yourself any negative self-talk?
Yes, I do. Yes, and I've been noticing recently how it's been very frustrating recently, because I've kind of been noticing my negative self-talk, and I haven't been able to do anything about it. Whereas, in the past, I've read NLP books, and as I was saying to you the other day, it's been 7 or 8 years ago, and I think they really helped me to keep an eye on myself. And to check my thinking. And I've recently noticed, I may or may not be right, because I think these things go on all the time anyway, but I've recently noticed that I have been guilty of that. It's probably the wrong word to use, but and I haven't been doing it. I felt unable to do anything about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, when you think about this negative self-talk, is it your voice or is it someone else's voice?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to have to think about that as well now. I think it's mostly my voice, but it will be other people's voices as well, yeah.
Okay, so if you think about the one, just to show the listeners, just think about the one when it's your voice. Where do you hear it? Is it the left side, the right side, or, all around inside your head?
Well, I guess it's up here, because I know I looked up that way when I got it. And I hope it's not. I hope that's just not a coincidence because of the lights here. But I think it's from the what is this? Right. This is my right hand.
Yeah, right side.
It's from the right.
Okay. So again, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 feeling, with 1 being at the lowest and 10 being happy and fine. When you hear that negative self-talk, how does it make you feel on a scale of 1 to 10? With 1 being low and 10 being you're fine, it's great.
Yeah, number 1 would be when it's particularly bad.
Number 1.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So think about that voice now, and imagine you can turn that voice into a shape. What shape would it be?
You got me there, Chris. Okay, hold on. It's very. Yeah, I could do more with this. I think it's a very sort of kind of boomy voice, because it's very authoritative. Because if you wouldn't take any notice of it if it wasn't authoritative, and it wouldn't be bothering you if you didn't care what the voice said. So the voice is kind of like boomy and authoritative, and it's I can't give you if it had a shape, it would be kind of a series of long spherical objects. So they wouldn't be spherical because they're long. I don't know how you describe a cylinder that's spherical at the edges.
And it's fun when we do this with people, because they just use so many different types of shapes, and there's never any one common one. It's just the way you decide what shape it is. What colour are your shapes?
Black.
Black, yeah. Black's actually quite a common colour.
Yeah.
So imagine you can see that shape on your shoulder. So move the voice into a shape and then put the shape on your shoulder.
Right.
And how do you feel about it now?
Right.
The same, worse, or better?
I'm trying to summon it. I'm trying to summon it up, which would suggest that it's better because I'm taking up your time here.
No, that's fine because it's good to do things in people's own time as well.
Yeah.
So imagine that shape then. Imagine it's on your shoulder and let it just sort of slowly go down your arm. So let it move down your arm all the way to your elbow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then all the way down your elbow, all the way across onto your palm.
Yeah.
So you can sort of feel it. You can feel it in your palm. Mm-hmm. And how does it feel now?
Well, I'm trying to summon up the feeling that I had earlier, and I just can't. I can't do it.
Yeah, which is a good thing, isn't it?
Which I'm guessing is a good thing. Yes.
Okay, so let it go from your palm towards your thigh, down past your knee, all the way down your leg, and onto your foot.
Right. Yes.
And let it drop off your foot onto the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And do you get an urge to do anything to the shape?
No, I'm kind of visualising it rolling away from me, so I'm not bothered.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. That's great. Some people like to kick it away. Some people like to stamp it. Some people, like you said, will let it just roll away so far away that you can't see it. But it's funny because when you heard the voice, it made you feel quite low, quite negative.
Yeah.
But by changing that voice and turning it into a shape and moving it away, down your body, away from you, it changed the way you felt about it. Now, if you do that 3 or 4 times very quickly, over and over and over again, and especially if you do it for today, tomorrow, and the day after, you'll find that it's very hard to recall that voice. Like you might try and recall that voice now, you might find it very hard to.
Right. Yeah. That's Chris. That whole scenario there has been really interesting to me because as I told you before, I have read about NLP, and I'm aware of some of the things that you were doing there. And I try to perform them on myself, but it is more helpful when you get someone to do it to someone else. When somebody does it to you, and they ask the right questions, and you've obviously got a bit of experience doing this, and I find, as you could see, I'm finding it. I do find it hard to visualize and to give things shapes and colours and names and do that. Whereas I think, when I thought it was coming from in me, and so if I was reading that on a book, that wouldn't have been so successful. I don't think I've got a good feeling that this is going to be successful, and I'll write it when the podcast comes out. I'll write in the blog post, and I'll repeat this visualization over the course of the next few days, and I'll write about it, and we'll see. See if the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. It's really funny when you read all the books and all the texts, and there's some really good books out there, especially some of the early Bandler stuff. It just sounds weird when you read it. Like, make it into a picture, move it, make it coloured or black and white, or a lot of people with a negative self-talk will get you to turn the volume down or to make your voice sound more like Mickey Mouse, and you can change the way things see and sound. It changes the way you feel. But when you read that sort of stuff, it don't make sense. You don't think it's going to work. But when you've got someone telling you to do it, you have to follow their instructions. And it's a lot easier to follow someone else's instructions rather than telling yourself to do something. So sometimes think by getting someone else to support you with that, or even as a soundboard, it helps people a lot more, really. But it's really clever because just by doing these techniques, like we're seeing them with yourself, it does work, doesn't it? You feel negative, but move the shape away, and you feel a lot better.
Yeah. So, well, we've got to get on to what you're doing now, because I assume you left your full-time job with the training company.
Yeah, so I set up a company called employmentking.co.uk where I do a lot of interview coaching. I released a book last July called The 73 Rules for Influencing the Interview using NLP, psychology and hypnotic persuasion techniques. And there's a lot of stuff in that book about helping people become more confident. We used a fast phobia removal technique from NLP to get people to overcome the fear interviews. I actually had this one client who came to me for interview techniques, and she said at her last interview, she actually got to the interview and then ran out of the room. She got so scared. She walked in, met the interview, shook the hands, got so scared, literally turned on her feet and then ran out the interview. So we did a couple of sessions with her, and now she performs fantastic at interviews and gets offered loads of jobs. And she's come back, and I expected her to have a job, but she's not, because she said, "Well, I'm so confident at interviews now. I'm going to go for higher paid jobs," which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the book's got a lot of stuff on confidence in there, but it's got a lot of stuff about understanding people's personalities, how interviewers internally think about things, using like a lot of the psychology and the NLP stuff, and it's really targeted to sort of give someone a better chance to be more successful at the interview. So I'm really doing a lot of careers advice and a lot of interview coaching at the moment.
Right. So you do seem to have found a niche about the interview and the employment side of things, despite the fact that you seem to be very good on me on a confidence level. But I suppose confidence comes into that niche as well. I'm really interested about the book because there you are. You were dyslexic at one point and left school at 16 with no qualifications. But the book it's not a common ebook or a Kindle. It's actually paper and ink, and you're an author.
I know. I sometimes still don't believe it. I have to get it out and like check it is my picture inside it. But you know what? I think what it is, I think when I was younger, and I did things and I'd fail at them, and I think that was my life. Like, I try things, I fail. I didn't do very well at school. And I couldn't even, sometimes people who aren't very good at reading and writing might excel in sports maybe, but I couldn't do sports either. So I sort of sometimes felt that there wasn't a niche there for me. But now I sort of try things, and, if things don't work, I look at different ways to do it in a better way. And I think having that belief system that if something don't work, I'll just try it in a different way has really supported me. And, I'll try things. I used to write a lot of blog posts, and that's how I got into writing. I don't think I've read a book until I was 18. I read one of the Sharp books when I was 18, and because I used to like Napoleonic Wars, and after reading that one book, that took me about 6 months. I got into reading, and I didn't really read them until I was that age. But yeah, I just think you've got to make the most of your life. You've got to do things you enjoy and do things you're passionate about. And as you do that, you sort of go off into different directions and find new passions and new things that interest you. And I love helping people. And when I started writing my blog, I used that again to share the techniques with people. And from there, I thought, no, I'll write a book and give it a go. Sent off to a local publishers, and one said they liked it. So, 7 months later, I'm selling books in America, in the UK. It's amazing. It's fantastic.
That is fantastic. So we've got to go back over this because I want people to listen who are perhaps listening to the podcast and not watching us on YouTube or on my blog post, who can get in touch with you. So it's theemploymentking.co.uk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, www.employmentking.co.uk.
Right.
Or they could always email me at info@employmentking.co.uk.
Right. And the book is called?
It's called The 73 Rules for Influencing the Interview,
right,
using psychology, NLP and hypnotic persuasion techniques. It's a very long title. If you Google the 73 rules, it normally comes up quite high.
All right. And I'm glad you've cornered the market in the number 73.
Yeah. Anything 73, then it's me.
That's good. Well, maybe your next book could be the 73 Rules of Confidence or something like that.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And the blog you're talking about, is that at employmentking.co.uk, or is it your other site?
No, that's on employmentking.co.uk/blog. So
right,
I put a lot of things on there about interviews, things on confidence, CV writing. I just try and share everything that's in my head and put things on there. So some things are fun articles and other things are informative. People can download CV templates. There's a free ebook on there and on some part of it. So yeah, I put a lot of different things on there for people to get. Yeah,
well, I'm a blogger myself, so I do find it's a great way of communicating and getting your message out there. So what would you say is the future then for Chris Delaney?
The 73 Rules of Confidence. No, I'm joking.
You see, you're great if you did follow my advice, but we'll see about that.
We'll see next year. Yeah. the Employment King site's doing really well. What I'm also interested in, because I recently trained as a hypnotherapist a couple of years ago, so I'm using more NLP and hypnotherapy together, and I'm getting into what I originally started with when I went self-employed, doing the life coaching. So I'm doing a lot of confidence sessions with people, phobia removal sessions, goal setting, that sort of stuff. The sort of the well-known NLP life coaching type sessions. So doing the Employment King careers advice, interview techniques, and then doing a lot of self-esteem. Because I sort of believe a lot of people I meet, they come to me because they want to change careers or they're not very good at interviews. But a lot of that, when you sort of delve into it, is self-esteem and confidence actually, and we do a lot of that, and then get them up with the interviews and the careers advice.
Right. So confidence is a very important part. That's absolutely great, Chris. I really, more than anything, I found the work you did on me was definitely fascinating. I really hope people here that that hear this, manage to get something out of it, because I'm sure I did. Well, thanks very much for coming on, Chris.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for inviting me down. I appreciate it.